Hello and welcome, and this is just like a whatever video, really, as well, it's close to the half here. I've been watching this game, and it's awful. I'm watching it on the satellite on TSN. The NFL Network doesn't show it for whatever reason. I guess because TSN's got it, and it's like I'm watching it on a B minus internet feed. It's just so bad. But what's even worse, and I'm just basically yada yada talking, is the Denver offense, the Denver coaching. It is just bad. And this is a huge game. Patrick Mahomes has just suffered a serious injury. I mean, I wish now I would have bet some of the under the passing yards and under the interceptions because he's going under everything. His game is done. Matt Moore is starting at quarterback. I even tried to make a live bet on the under in the game and under for the second quarter, but they were cloud. They stopped. They just don't let anyone bet this game anymore after the news. But that's not really what I want to talk about. It's not going to be a fun second. Hopefully, the second half works out one of the things I also want to point out, I'm making a lot of bets this weekend, so how the bets go was really going to reflect how I play next week. I'm probably going to have 15, 14, 13, 14 bets when it's all said and done. I've already put in, well, I got one tonight. I got like one, two, three more on the weekend from what I made. And then I'm going to come up with a bunch more. And then Ross Benjamin, I'm going to play all of his games. It's going to be like five or six, including college. So if I have a bad day, it'll be it for football. Seriously, I mean it's. But if I have a good day, I could go more aggressive. But money management's always job number one. Exactly why. I'm putting in what I could risk tolerate for this type of game, and so on and so forth. Oh my goodness! I just got a text message. Torn ACL. Yeah, so Mahomes is probably done for this season. Alrighty. Anyway, like I say with the Broncos, I used to be a big Broncos fan, and how I picked it was truly through random in the mid 1980s. I mean, I randomly went for one of the good teams. There was probably five, six, seven to choose from, eight to choose from. So I took Denver and John Elway, and it went good up until the end of the Mike Shanahan tenure, and then it just got really bad and bad, and it just continues to get bad on so many levels, including one of my biggest. I had a chance. Let's just put it this way: the Denver defense one time cost me a few $1,000s on a nice long shot bet. When I had good information Peyton Manning was going to suck, and he did, and the Denver defense still won. But anyway, that was a different game. Philip Lindsay, 5 of 13, long of 9. Now, I'm not going to talk anything about the bad average because even Royce Freeman. How is Royce Freeman getting 6 of 10? I mean, they're playing him too much, and I knew he was going to play this morning. I liked the bet even without it. Although the over under was 71.5, and I almost thought about going under that number, but I didn't. I considered it. And the long of 9, which means everything else is 4 of 4. I mean, had that player not got that tackle, and there's a defender that just got his foot nicely, and if he didn't get it, that was a 40, 50 yard touchdown, and that can still happen in the second half. But basically, another way I'm saying a lot of bets. If I end up going like 20, 30% against the spread, I'm probably just gonna call it. We'll see. But if I don't, and even after tonight, if I lose this, I'm just gonna be pretty much at even because I'm up like almost 1 unit, so I'll be down like nothing. I just get this type of thing. Like, no, my streaks can be so big or bad. I mean, having like a 9-1 or 1-9 weekend is like so common. Anyway, what's really pissing me off though is 5 of 13, and there has been like 3 or 4 beautiful play action fakes to Lindsay that results in things like sacks and oh, sack, fumble, interception, Kansas City. Man, that coaching on Denver is just garbage. It is garbage. But Patrick Mahomes is out for the year. This is serious, serious information, which means now you got a Chargers team, which is just terrible. Broncos are terrible. Raiders aren't that great, and the Chargers. Matt Moore will be your quarterback for the rest of the season, out for the year. This isn't normally a sports channel, but let me stop that flicker. Hopefully that stops it now. Okay, back. Normally, this isn't a sports channel, but I've been doing a lot of these sports channels, mainly reflected to turning, like, we'll say sports investing, sports gambling, however you want to talk about it. As it's mainly that of a crypto channel, but I'll just see how many views I get with just a simple note. Mahomes torn ACL or something. I don't want. I'm not going to title it that. What am I going to title it? No, I'm not going to go for clickbait views. After all, people who watch this video just from whatever search, I'm sure they've heard of Bitcoin and stuff like that before. Definitely sports gambling and sports betting. Oh, what also is really not fun as well. I mean, it doesn't matter now with the injury as it is anyway, but in doing daily fantasy, I was debating between two sleepers that were going to have a good game. One was Hardman, who's had one catch for 21 yards. He also almost got into another one, and he had a good punt return or kick return. Kick return, I think. Either or. Um, it was between him and then a guy that's got a name of a chocolate bar. I forget his name. He hasn't got a catch yet. Snickers? No. Let me pause the tape and find it. And his name is Pringle. So it's not a chocolate bar. It's chips. But that's just me with names. I've always been terrible at remembering them. So I do things like try to how can I remember names? So for fantasy, some sleeper picks. I mean, this name was easy to remember. There's a running back on Buffalo named Singletary. And I remember him because, like, how do I remember his name? Oh, remember that big guy in the Bears? Just remember Singletary. And well, that one was easy. But it's been like that my whole life. And then just got sick growing up and saying, oh, hi, how are you doing? Hey, you. And I mean, what's the easiest way of saying I know you? You know who I am, but I mean, I know your name, of course. Uh, it's and then of course you're trying like it forever, and then it makes it worse. They say, "Oh, hey, Derek." It's like, "Yeah, how you doing?" kind of deal. That's just been the way of the past. But it gets pretty good because a couple of times, and I've been successful. I think 100% of the time. Like, "Hi, Dave," right? Yeah, yeah, but yep, and it's because of course. And of course, if I don't know, I'm gonna say I can't remember your name, which is interesting because someone came up to me as I was going to the grocery store 2 days ago, I think, or yesterday, 2 days ago, and it's like, hey, how do I know you? He talked like he knew me, and I didn't recognize him at all. And then just saying a little bit, and then he just asked about some events that was nothing towards me, and I asked when he was born. He said he was 87. I'm 75, and I was just basically told him that there's no way that you would have really seen me anything more than anything, even like less than this kind of deal, like maybe at a restaurant or something like that. That would have been about it. And then, wow, if you can remember that. And this was a person where I'd be confident if I would have seen him or talked to him once, I would have remembered him. Uh, just in the fact that we'll just say that he was unique. But yeah, that's just off topic for stuff like that. So definitely because I'm talking like this, I'm not going to title it anything like ACL injury. Uh, maybe you can see a refreshment, 18 seconds left. Philip Lindsay's at 13 yards rushing. Fantasy wise, this defense for do we have any deep stats? It's like four. They said 4 sacks because this play here, Reggie Ragland 5 yard fumble recover. That was and that was interesting because not only that, but after that, Flacco was showing injuries himself, like hand injuries. It's like, oh my god, now the next quarterbacks. So after that, moments later, I was found out that Mahomes was out for the year, and former quarterback Troy Aikman, who was the color commentator of the game, he was basically saying that oh, it looks very serious. And of course, ACL injury is that he did jog to the locker room. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what it was. It came after what I wasn't too sure what to call it. I called it the Mahomes sneak, and it actually failed because how he got injured. Uh, well, he went in there for a QB sneak, and then he got it on 4th and 1. Interestingly done. I I have a thing called the Brady. I call the Brady sneak. A lot of times this thing will just be named after somebody because it's big for them. And this is something I named, and I've called this for 4, 5, 6 years. The Brady sneak, If you watch football, that's when Tom Brady does it. When he comes up the line, the way he moves forward. Well, if you do it like that, that's the Brady sneak. That's a little different than the traditional QB sneak. And this one, I've never seen a QB sneak the way Patrick Mahomes did this before. This is the first time ever I've seen one like this. And apparently, I guess that injured him because there was a commercial break after that. I went to the other room. Next thing you know, I see him jogging to the locker room. Okay, Matt Moore comes on the field, and of course, at that point, that was truly questionable for his return when I see that. And well, then, of course, it got very, very serious along the way. And one of the biggest things with the frustrations before the Broncos, as far as just, and this is just me not really cheering for teams anymore, so I really don't have a favorite team really anywhere for any sport, was when Mike Shanahan's tenure ended. They were competing with a terrible team, terrible division, rather, I should say, to win a division. And either that or they were already eliminated from the playoffs, either or. I think it was the first one, the former. And what happened was the Broncos were having injuries after injuries to running backs. And then all of a sudden, Peyton Hillis for the Broncos comes in, and then he's playing amazing. He's a fullback, but he's playing the running back position because they're just running out of guys at that time. And then in a situation, it was the fourth quarter of a game where it was just scab time, where you don't put your starters in. They put him in, and he gets injured. And it's like, coach, idiot, don't put him in a stupid situation. It's just bad. Over under's now 49. I was trying to get 55 and a half on the under. So and that was just, and then after that, I mean, it got further. In fact, if anyone watches my old videos, I got stuff about Tim Tebow. But even before then, the year after uh, the when the year after that, Mike Shanahan was gone. So they brought in a new coach. So Peyton Hillis, I'm drafting him in the last round of all my fantasy leagues. I'm going to check to see if the specials are on here. And he's just never playing. He never plays at all. He's on the team, and he never plays. No specials available. Line's up to 10 now. Sweet. Sweet. And therefore, I was like, okay, whatever. Then the offseason comes in, and they traded him for Brady Quinn, some sort of quarterback that didn't make it. And in Cleveland, he just dominates. And I mean, his run in Cleveland was short lived, like any Cleveland run they might have. I mean, that's just Cleveland Browns for you. Unfortunately, the computer crossed with my Wi-Fi does the same. So there's periods of time like now where it can just do this, as you can see with the reconnection. But anyway, the that was just terrible. And then after that, Tim Tebow's an interesting guy because I was huge on Tim Tebow. But the thing about it is I'm the type of offensive mastermind that I'd have if I were to run a football team. I would definitely have to realize that my original strategy of having quarterbacks while getting hurt, that I would be almost as bad as what Mike Shanahan again was with Robert Griffin. Although that was just a bad coaching decision. But the way I would have been reckless with my quarterback decisions. But there's quarterbacks like Russell Wilson out there that can actually do it well. So not really. But anyway, there's different types of players that I like that are uniquely different, and Tim Tebow is the granddaddy of the best that I would look for. It's not a traditional player. It's definitely not a traditional system that I would have. And Tim Tebow was certainly not that. But he is the only quarterback that I have ever seen in the history of the National Football League to ever not get a chance to fail and fail in the game, because usually you got two ways of failing, either that of production or through injury. He never got hurt, and statistically speaking, he never put off terrible numbers. His last two starting games were playoff games, as he and that was just another story. So just different things like that, because I was just trying to get back in the Broncos during the Tebow run too, and well, that totally destroyed. And then a little bit after that, as I mentioned moments ago, basically what happened was what I do. I guess there's enough people I can do this on. I mean, how many people from Ontario are going to be doing this? What I do is and I'm going to, and this is a big week this weekend. Oh my goodness. What I do is I do this proposition bet. You have to be from Ontario, Canada to do this, or be in Ontario, Canada on the weekend of the game. And that is predict every single winner of the game. I'm risking $5 to win what I estimate to be between 80,000 and 600,000. And this is how I'm doing it. And I gotta even think 80,000. I mean, that's really low if that's what comes up. It's in pools. This is like lotteries that you fill out at your convenience stores, gas stations, and places like that. And what you do is you fill out a card for game number 28, and you're picking every single winner. So what's going to ask you on the card, with the exception of advanced boxing options, throwing that part aside, which I'm not going to do in this. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm not going to double my bet. Is I'm going to play this game. So $5, you have to pick. You basically got to get 13 games right. That's going to be damn hard. 13. I thought it was going to be like 11. I thought there's more bye weeks. That sucks. I was hoping for 11. But it doesn't matter because mathematically, I know 13 still works sense, especially with some of the games out there. Now, this is contrarian because how this works is everyone puts $5 down per ticket, and then they take their heavy juice that they take, like any lottery, and then they divide what's remaining into the winners. So if all the public plays win, and it's funny because I talked to somebody earlier this week who actually knew somebody who had this happen to him, where all the common plays win, all the teams people like. You're gonna get payouts of like almost like $200. I mean, everybody. Well, not like everybody won, but a lot, like several hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people win. The prize pool is going to be about 600 something thousand dollars. That's what they is. That's what they are. And if I'm the only one that has this lineup or this card, that's what I win. If three people win with me, then I'd win about 125,000. So I don't think many people will. So I have to find a contrarian play, and you're looking at it in the number one game. Oh, I got two things I want to talk about. Blowing games, intentionally trying to lose. Well, the only ones I think are doing that is the coaches and the GM staff. If even the coaches, the players aren't. But realistically, the Miami's got a snowball's chance in hell of winning. In order to take contrarian plays, you generally got to take the upsets. This is the biggest one on the board. And the general rule too, because this is Ontario, Canada, is go against the locals. So in football, or we'll get to football last, but in baseball, that means go against the Blue Jays. In hockey, not so much the Ottawa Senators, but definitely the Toronto Maple Leafs. And in basketball, the Toronto Raptors. And in football, well, we don't have a pro football team, but Buffalo pretty much is. But now that Buffalo's good, definitely. And now that Buffalo's got a home matchup against Miami, who wants to touch the Dolphins? Well, obviously I do. But I'm betting $5, knowing that I'm pretty much throwing it away, and I don't care. That's just what I do to get, again, six figures or high five. High five, yeah. High five meaning like 70, 80, 90. So then what I have to do on this is, well, I mean, I'm not going to tell you, like, Jacksonville, Cincy's a hard game. Minnesota, Detroit, that's an evenly matched game. I'm not telling you who I like there. In case you're copying me, I can't tell you many plays at all. Oakland, Green Bay, it's unlikely I'm going to take Oakland. I mean, Green Bay for sure. LA Rams, Atlanta. If I find something to pick Atlanta, they're a sleeper team pick, but I don't have to go too fancy now for a sleeper pick. I'm trying to get a unique lineup of 13 different combinations of choice, yay or nay, or home or road. If the game ends in a tie, the outcome goes to the road team. That's just, and one or two times a season it should, and already has once this year in week one. Houston's in Indianapolis. I'm not going to tell you that one. There's no way I'm telling you who I'm picking there. I like it though. That's a good game. San Francisco over Washington, I'm taking. I mean, you can take Washington as a sleeper, but the deep one and the less realistic one to hit. But the way I look at it is, like 1%, if even that, of the people, not even two, are going to take Miami, which means about 98% of these tickets are going to take Buffalo. So if Miami wins, we can just throw 98% of the tickets out. Now it's going to be so much easier to get a unique lineup. So fun. So continuing on more, it's go with Arizona and the Giants. I'll let you know this one because one thing I'm doing is I'm following Ross Benjamin picks. I like the Giants -3. Chargers, Tennessee. I'm not going to tell you who I like there. New Orleans, Chicago. I'm going Chicago here actually. It's contrarian. It's also a Ross Benjamin pick. So I'm going to go Chicago. Baltimore, Seattle. Good game. I'm not going to tell you who I like there because I know there just could be one or two you're going to copy me, and I want to make sure we're different by one game. Because if we have the same lineup, that means well we both win, which is cool. But the least people that do my strategy, the better it is. Which is why there's no way I could do this if I was getting thousands of views. I'd have to charge a fee for this information just because. I mean, I definitely would for what it would worth. It would pay for all my tickets and make it I could play for free. But Philadelphia, Dallas. Not going to tell you who I like there. Now this is the game I have to talk about. I'm playing New England for sure, 100%. I've already talked about that game already this week. So even further, here's the strategy in playing this game. This is my strategy, and why the hedge would have worked out for that one time when I got screwed over. Because what happened? I was playing one of these tickets, and I got every 1 o'clock game correct. Damn right. Damn freaking right. It was awesome. Now, what would have happened was the 4 o'clock games coming, and Denver was playing an afternoon game, 4 o'clock game, Eastern time. And early in the season, I was bearish on Peyton Manning the entire season. This is his last year when he won the Super Bowl. So Peyton Manning, to me, I will tell you right now, I believe full-heartedly that Peyton Manning is the best and he is the worst ever quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl. Meaning how you were at that day at that time when you started at quarterback. And I know it's debatable if he was the best in the sense that the year he won against the Chicago Bears. The Bears. I loved SNL back then. Anyway, that's a different story. Against the Bears, I mean, he was dominant, but I mean, there were some dominant Brady years, but Brady's best years, he lost the Super Bowl, so not really. Aaron Rodgers, I mean, it's debatable, but he's definitely on there. So, but that year, his last year, his stats were terrible, but the defense kept winning it for him, including that game. And then he got injured, and then I think it was Brock Osweiler came in, and he was a little improvement, but I mean, Peyton Manning was that damn bad. And then he comes back, and at the end of the season, in Super Bowl included, he didn't look good. He was a game manager, and he was terrible. But that defense won the Super Bowl. So I got all the games right. So then it worked out that I had one game wrong going into Monday Night Football, and had that happened, I would have been perfect. And as I state the hedge bet, well, I would have hedged and my hedge would have won, meaning I ended up getting 2 games wrong when it was all said and done. But what I would have done, of course, so in this example, and of course what I would have done then, if I get all 12 games right, I'm going to probably bet about $500, $700 on the Jets, on the money line, at that tremendously large price, realizing that I want to lose it. A big time because I'm going for that big like 70, 80 to 600,000 score on the other end. But if I happen to lose that game and the Jets does piss me off because I couldn't handle getting the first 12 games right and losing this one as it is anyway. But at least if I can get a few thousand back in cryptocurrencies, at least I can sweeten the wounds a little bit on that game. So I always look to play the favorite on Monday Night Football, so that if I happen to become in the situation where I get every single game right, I can then make a hedge bet. Now sometimes what I'll do, and I haven't done it yet this year because I've only done one box all year, and boxing means right here. Now it says wagers 10. This means that I'm betting both teams to win. So essentially I have 2 tickets, one with the visitors and one with the home team. So and if I were to ever do this on a Monday night, that means Sunday night does exactly the same thing. Now I'm looking for the favorite on Sunday night, and I have a very short amount of time to get a deposit in to make a significantly larger size wager. which would be six because the 4 o'clock games would end maybe around 7:40, 7:30, or whatever, 7:25. So then I would have to make a deposit. An interesting story. There was a time I wanted to bet a Thursday night game, and I would have lost, but that's not neither here nor there for that result. But what is or was it was around that time. It was like 7:15, and I wanted to make a wager, and the damn Bitcoin Cash, yeah, not Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash was just taking way too long for it to get its first hit on the blockchain. And then it was extra 6 or 7 minutes, 7 8 minutes before I got it because it hit the first confirmation 6 minutes before game time. And I was just kept on refreshing my screen up until the end. It didn't come, and then I noticed like 5 minutes after kickoff that my balance was there. So that's what I don't want to have that situation to have happen. So I'd have that big risk. But if that happened, as long as I didn't suspend betting, I would be able to bet the game on the live odds. But then I have to play heavier juice, which is what it happens. And then you can see I didn't have the I was suspended from that bet I talked about for tonight's game against Kansas City. Um, so that team came into play. And you see, you never know what's going to happen. And then if I'm betting like 500 600 bucks, I don't think that's going to be too large for. I mean, that's a pretty small number for a maximum bet. I mean, they actually allow big numbers. They'll let you bet over a Bitcoin on a game, and several Bitcoin Cash. Like, oh my goodness, dozens and dozens and dozens they'll let you bet on a game. At least before the game, live betting the odds change. But that is the strategy, and again, this is a contrarian bet. So one more thing I want to talk about. This is what I do. I will look at the money lines for every single winner that I can find, and I'll usually use the top lines, like I think it's Bet Online's odds for what they have as a money line. And I don't know if they would let you bet a 13 game parlay, but that's not what's important because they do let you bet 9, 10, or like 8, 9, 10 game parlays, whatever. But what's important is to note the math on how they do it. What they do is they multiply the decimal odds by each other, which is what I do. So I'll take the decimal odds of Miami and every team that I pick, and I have to ensure that that number is less than 7,001. 7,000 times 5, they'll be like, okay, well, we'd pay you 7,001 odds. So if you bet $5, we'll give you a 35,000 payout. Because my what I say about that, what I know about this is that when the contrarians win, the payouts are usually noticeably higher than the Vegas decimal payouts would be. So in this situation here, if I'm going to win like 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm expecting the payout would be like a low five-figure number on a $5 bet. And last week it was actually the same. It worked out the same, but it was an odd week because of the Buffalo Jacksonville or the Buffalo Tennessee game. So it was an odd week for it. I think that was. Oh, I didn't check it yet. I don't think it's what day is it? Maybe I didn't check it yet. But what you can do is you can go to the results and see. So I'll check what the results would be. Here's got 330,000. Oh no, I didn't check it. I would have remembered that. Holy shit! This is my point, and I'm going to check this out. We're looking at well, football, a close date, October. This is the week before. This is the one that the payout was pretty much the exact same, within 3% of what the Vegas payout would have been. One third of a million, two winners. Oh, it's 33,000. 33,000. Okay, you got me on that. Wow. 12 of 12 for 33. So let's look at the consensus. Washington to beat Miami. That was the consensus play. Minnesota, no surprise there. Houston, it was a small underdog play. They were a relatively small live dog, so that's a little bit. New Orleans. And I got a spreadsheet actually to calculate it fast. So I'm going to do this in this video now because I haven't done this yet. New Orleans being Jacksonville, no surprise. Seattle being Cleveland, no surprise. Baltimore being Seattle, since he expected. Same thing. So, you know what? This wasn't a big underdog here. Arizona, Atlanta. Atlanta sucks. This was a big underdog. Jets beating Dallas. And I was on the Jets. I took the Jets last week as well. What did I take? I took Washington, Minnesota, Kansas City, and I knew to take Houston too. And I was watching the game, I'm like, I knew to take Houston. I took New Orleans over Jacksonville. I took Seattle over Cleveland. I took Baltimore over Cincy. I took San Francisco. I took Arizona. I took the Jets. I took Tennessee, I think. I took the I took the Chargers. I took the Chargers, and I took Green Bay. So I didn't get them right, of course. I was close, man. I got a few of them right, but not really. Anyway, what we're gonna do is I'm going to check the money lines, and I do this from a Google search from SBR odds, and this is the site I go to. Man, I thought it said 330,000. Because again, the highest prize I've seen is almost a million, which was week 17, about 7 years ago or so. There was a 17 point underdog. Green Bay lost as like a 17 point underdog. Oh. Anyway, let's now go to the date and let's click on the 13th. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in a text notepad what all the money lines are. We got spreads here, but I'm going to click on money lines instead. Let me just get a notepad ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go like this and keep on scrolling. So we got Carolina at minus 125. My computer will automatically calculate the decimal odds for me. Baltimore was minus 531. Seattle was 102. I don't need the plus, I just need it that way. We have Houston in at 166. We have New Orleans in at 126. It may not be too good of a week. Minnesota 176. We'll see. Washington minus 240, minus 148. No, San Francisco was plus 133. I knew to bet them big too, or bet them really. Period. Arizona, we got this. We have Arizona. A lot of the small underdogs won, but even I gotta think this is going to be a bad week. Actually, I would have expected a higher payout on this one. Anyway, continue on further. We have Denver winning at minus 121. We have Pittsburgh winning at 220. But you know what? This is that weird one here, which is why I went with the Chargers. I didn't like going with the Chargers. I didn't want to. It's just Pittsburgh, even though they got an injury, are such a loved team, and especially in this area. And the Chargers aren't. So I really go against Pittsburgh as much as I can in the pools. And that's what I was thinking about in the ticket. I was like, yeah, how do I go? So I end up going with the Chargers because of it. Well, I can't get the results of what the consensus is. I just have to go with what I think that it would be. Now the Monday night game. We'll see what the payout is. It's not going to be because when you look at it here, this was 33,000, which I got divided by 5, which would be like a little over 6,001. And I mean, that's not that big of a number. And we have Green Bay winning at minus 198. Let me bring up my spreadsheet. Okay. This is what last week's looked like. Well, the week before then. The actual payout was 32,000, which means if you times that by 5, that's like 160 or so, which is what the payout actually was because we had this big underdog here. But wow, really? I mean, that was a bad payout. That was a bad payout. It normally isn't like that on games when it's like that. Already, drumroll looks like 10,000. I can see right there, but we multiply. So 10,001 was the true odds. which meant 50,000 would have been the fair payout, and that works out that you lost. That was a bad bet. It worked out. Now that sucks actually. Now I got to really reconsider these games a bit, but not really. This is again. I do consider this the technicality. There was probably too many people playing Pittsburgh. I just know way too many Steeler fans in my area than I should. Um, Same thing with the Packers if I can. I was just really, really bullish on the Packers going in. You can only be so fancy. And they did win. Um, but maybe I was right to go with the Chargers for that exact reason. The the Jets aren't too light, which is why I'm surprised that there's 12 people that got it right. Now you never know if there's just a weird person that puts 3 or 4 or 5 bets on the same thing. That you gotta throw in as a possibility. If they did, that's a mistake. I don't know why one would do that. And then the chances they'd win is so rare. But you never know if some of those 12 would be like that. San Francisco against the Rams was another one of those kinds of games because that was just an unfair line and a great money line price. But again, I felt I could go with that. And I was thinking that, you know what? Normally, when I'm playing a dog, a money line of this, you're going to get good contrarian play, and I knew it wasn't for that game going in. Same thing with that Kansas City game as well, too. Again, I was thinking about playing it, but because I thought there would be too many Houston contrarians out there, that's why I went with Kansas City in the first place. Other than the fact I thought they were a good play, I thought it was only going to be because from a lot of the stuff I heard in media stuff, and I do listen at least on Friday nights, especially because that's because I buy my tickets Saturday, to a lot of what the people are saying about it. And I did hear a lot of people talking more sharply on Houston than normal, and I was like, geez, that kind of isn't what I want to hear. Again, why I went with Kansas City. Again, why it makes sense that this was only 33,000. Minnesota being Philly, that was normal, and again, I got that's why I'm doing the whole Buffalo Washington strategy as it is because you really got to know the numbers, and a lot of those ways, like going against Pittsburgh and stuff like that, I only have to be a little bit fancy. I don't have to go every single contrarian play. But obviously, by showing this, you have to do a bit more than what this result came into play. And wow, I turned a 7 minute, 9 minute rant into what I'm guessing is a 30 plus minute rant. I don't even got the, let me just see the time here. 37, wow. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a great day. Bye bye.